as we move to Jordan Brown. So Jan, your storytelling of a true story leads us now to this wonderful indie filmmaker whom I hope is still online with us, Jordan Brown.
Hi, yeah, I'm here. How's it going?
It's going really well. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. I've had a big day, and I'm sure all of us here have had a big day. But yeah, thank you very much for having me, to Katina and the organisers and everyone tuning in. So it's great to see some familiar faces here actually, and also meet some new ones. But well, just quickly about me for everybody. I'm a filmmaker and activist based in Melbourne, Australia. I don't have any academic experience, but I work in the digital security space from an activist perspective, and also someone who is doing social change, political work, both personally and professionally. So something I noticed today, we've had great discussions going about, those who are marginalized in society being affected by technology, indeed everyone in society being affected by technology. Questions of democracy have come up a lot today. So I guess some of my thoughts were to just bring in, well, two things to bring into this workshop that chime to my experiences. The first one would be to flag an interest in keeping the political space as open as possible. And what I mean by that is definitely a theme I've seen today is how AI or algorithms or various surveillance technologies or data gathering are closing the political space. And obviously there should be a desire to protect the space for civic engagement, for political expression and for activism and for social change. And I'm thinking various things here, they've been discussed in various ways or touched on in various ways today, the China's social credit system, but also how there's models of that spreading all over the world, and we have the pleasure model of that over here in the West. I'm thinking of various predictive policing models used by federal and state police against activists and citizens alike. The use of facial recognition software against political activists, surveillance used for strategic incapacitation of activists and activist movements. But putting that aside, I think what I've actually decided to do with my time today is take a broader view. And I've decided to devote the rest of my time today, given that I'm a filmmaker, to play an excerpt of a series that's just come out in the UK by the renowned documentarian Adam Curtis. It's called Can't Get You Out of My Head. For those who don't know, Curtis has a huge body of work that deals with power in society, the technological interplay, themes of psychology, various angles on social control throughout historical memory, that sort of thing. I find his work fascinating and very accessible. For instance, he did a great series in 2002 called The Century of the Self, which opens up all sorts of questions around the origins of individualism, the consumer society, the history of Edward Bernays and public relations, all of that manipulation and that sort of angle, advertising. So this excerpt I'd like to play today to get to AI and what we've been discussing, in the sort of security and privacy aspect, is from his recent series that was only released a few days ago, 7 minutes, and it's got 3 different excerpts from the series that focuses on I guess AI is definitely a component, but definitely the thing I'd like to leave with you is the key point of that series, or part of the key point of that series is how this culture projects a mechanistic worldview onto human beings and to nature, and how this is the root of many of our problems. So there's a thinking here of how our thinking on a social and on a personal social level has been colonized by the machines that have been built. So I'll just play this excerpt here.
And so, yeah, that little toggle at the bottom, which I didn't press before, share sound.
Great. Can you see a green thing?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Here we go.
In the mass democracies of the West, a new ideology has risen up. We have come to believe that the old hierarchies of power can be replaced by self-organising networks. From internet utopianism to the global economic system, and above all, the ecosystems of the natural world, today we dream of systems that can balance and stabilise themselves without the intervention of authoritarian power. But in reality, this is the dream of the machines. It reflects how they are organised. It has nothing to do with nature. And as a model for human society and for politics, it is wholly inadequate in the face of the powerful, dynamic forces that really dominate the world today. This is the story of the rise of the dream of the self-organising system and the strange machine fantasy of nature that underpins it. A new revolution was about to begin. It would offer a dream of liberation and freedom for the new individuals. But it would end by controlling them. And in a strange twist, the person whose ideas would guide that revolution was Ethel Boole's father. He was a mathematician from the 19th century called George Boole. Boole had been a deeply religious man, and one afternoon in the 1840s, as he walked across a field near Doncaster, a thought had flashed into his head that he believed was a religious vision. Boole suddenly saw how you could use mathematics to unlock the mysterious processes of human thought. The same symbols that were used in algebra could be used to describe what went on inside people's heads as they followed a train of thought, expressing all the twists and turns in simple binary form. If this, then that. If that, then not this. And in 1854, Boole wrote a book that caused a sensation. It was called An Investigation of the Laws of Thought. Its aim, to investigate the fundamental laws of those operations of the mind by which reasoning is performed. Boole showed how even abstract concepts like virtue and passion could be put into equations, and then the symbols used to follow a pattern of thought to its conclusion. Boole was driven by an almost messianic belief that he had been allowed a glimpse by God into the truth of the human mind. But there were those who doubted this. The philosopher Bertrand Russell was astonished by the brilliance of Boole's mathematics. But he didn't believe that what Boole had discovered was anything to do with human thought. Human beings, Russell said, do not think like that. What Boole was really doing was something else. Throughout the British Empire, science had played a powerful role which has been wiped and forgotten today. Its job had been to create abstract systems, to catalogue and order the chaotic reality that the British ruled over, to turn it into something that could be managed and controlled. It ranged from making maps of what was called the dark interior, to cataloguing millions of species of animals and insects, and studying and categorising different human types. And what Boole was doing was the next step in that process. He was taking the chaotic reality of human thought and making a simplified, rational map of that other dark interior, the human mind, so it could be managed and controlled. But in the 19th century, no one could see any way of using the system that Boole had created, and it languished and was quietly forgotten, and the British Empire began to collapse. It was a new system that seemed as if it would never have to face that struggle, because it would be completely free of the past. The laws of human thought that George Boole had created had become the central structure of all thinking machines, computers, because it fitted perfectly with the binary switching system inside them, either 0 or 1. And it was used by the machines to create endless branching pathways of binary logic, called algorithms. Out of that was going to come the dream of artificial intelligence, machines that could think independently, that could then order and manage the world as a rational system, not driven by the dangerous ideologies of the past. But back in the 1960s, the engineers began to build the first neural networks. What they had forgotten was that the system of thought they were creating inside the machines did have its own history. That it had been born out of a time when science had become deeply involved in questions of power and control in the British Empire. And that what lay behind the computer logic was the aim of simplifying human thought, which would finally allow you to colonize the last free outpost, the human mind. But unlike the old empires, where power was visible, this power would be hidden in remote places, in the servers.
So yeah, obviously a lot to think about there. Hopefully that gives a flavour for the series though too, not just the history of various computers being built, but addressing the underlying, well, yeah, a lot of things. One quote that comes to mind was, I think it was Robert Coombs said, unquestioned beliefs are the real authorities of the culture. And so I think in regards to the history of computing, there's a lot of embedded assumptions that have been put into various computer systems of history. So I think that's the takeaway thought that I'd like to leave with everyone here, and you know, various professionals looking at this problem in various different ways. Yeah, we all need to question our unquestioned beliefs on a personal and societal level. And given that these machines have such power over our lives and have sort of are an entity in and of themselves these days, you know, we're so beholden to technology. Technology drives a lot of our decision making and social structures, for example. That yeah, these questions are sort of more pertinent than ever, really. But yeah, that's it for me. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for always being the one who creates the interventions. And as a filmmaker, as someone who's creative, as someone who's an activist, as someone who spent the last 20 plus years listening, you always make us stop and think. And the way you frame things, in about 20 years, I'll still be thinking about this day. I'm still thinking about the 17th of November, 2020, because of you and Roger. You seem to be making a good tag team combination, I think. And with that, just to thank you very much, Jordan, and to press stop. Please do ask questions of Jordan if we have him for another 5 minutes, if we're lucky enough. In the chat window, he's very, very good with sources and very good with deep theory, actually. He may claim he's not an academic, but he's very well read.